Dear students, hope all are keeping fine. Today we are going to study a new poem, Birches, written by Robert Frost. Robert Frost Birches is more than just the fond rambling of a nature lover. It is also a personal quest to achieve balance between different worlds. Frost expresses this idea using birch trees as an extended metaphor and the recurring motif of a lively lad climbing and swinging down on them. By openly sharing these thoughts and feelings, Frost encourages the reader to identify with the poem and seek out their own harmony. We deal with so many expectations, realities, and duties in our daily lives. Sometimes we lose focus on the plain joy of living. Birches then becomes relevant today, gently reminding us to find an oasis of calm and refreshment that one can lap into when things get tough. When we moving to the stanza wise, it is very important to study the word meanings. Please do that. The poem opens in an easy colloquial style. The speaker observes birches bending to left and right across the lines of straightly erected dark trees. He tends to imagine that some boy has been swinging them, resulting in their bending down. But soon, the reality dawns upon him that birches cannot be bent down permanently by the swinging as they are done by the ice storms. In other words, only the ice storms can bend birches permanently. In these lines, the poet has given us the description of an observed phenomenon. He brings together the opposite of reality and fancy, which continues in other parts of the poem as well. Let us move towards the next stanza of the poem. Here, the speaker addresses the reader and says that he must have been birches loaded with ice on a sunny winter morning after the rain. When the wind blows, birches swinging up and down with a clicking sound. The ice on the birches shines and turns many-colored as the rays of the sun are refracted in passing through it. Soon, the warmth of the sun increases and the ice on birches is shaken and breaks down into fragments to fall down on the earth. These pieces of shining ice resembles pieces of broken glass. One would think as if the inner dome of the heaven had been fallen into pieces and the earth was covered with heaps of broken glass. Let us see the next lines of the poems. With the burden of the ice, birches are bowed very low to the level of the dry fern growing on the earth, but they still not break. They are bent down so much and for so long that they are not in position to straighten themselves. Their trunks lie arched in the forest for several years. They keep their leaves trailing on the ground, like the girls sitting on their hands and knees, spreading their hair over their heads to dry in the sun. Here, the poet has offered a beautiful image by simile. The trailing of leaves by the birches reminds him of girls on their knees, spreading their hair over their heads to dry them. Moving to the next lines of the poem. The speaker knows the reality of the bowed down birches, but once again he shifts to his fancy that the birches have been bowed down by the swinging of them by some boy. He imagines that some boy, looking after his cows and living far away from the town to learn baseball, devised a game for himself, the game of birch swinging. This game he could play all alone in summer or winter. This shift from reality to fancy underlines the fact that the speaker prefers the world of imagination to the world of reality. Now let us move to the next lines of the poems. The speaker imagines that the boy found the game of bird swinging very thrilling. That is why he had climbed all the branches on by his father and bent them all down as if he wanted to conquer all of them. No tree could stand erect as its stiffness was gone. He learned the skill to maintain perfect balance even when he reached the top so that he could come down swiftly to the ground. This close analysis of the boy's skill, as we learn later, reveals that the speaker himself had been a swinger of birches in his childhood. That is why his mind tends to ignore the reality of the ice storm bowing down birches again and again. Moving to the next lines of the poem. These lines contain a description of the boy's technique of climbing and bending the trees. He must take pains carefully to reach the top of each tree, which is as similar to the care that one must take to fill a cup up to the brim and even above the brim. The poet is here describing a method of reaching beyond the limits of things. The boy, after filling the metaphorical cup above the brim, reaches the top of the tree. The tree bends just enough so that the boy is lowered to the ground without harm. This is suggestive of the fact that lowering down on the earth is not merely a physical action, but coming back to the real world after the flight of imagination. Also, the care taken by the boy is similar to the careful construction involved in the writing of a poem, making the boy's actions is in climbing the trees a parallel for poet's act of writing a poem. Moving to the next lines of the poem. The speaker begins this action with a note of nostalgia. This longing for the simpler days of childhood stands in a sharp contrast with the pain of the adult world, which is described as a pathless wood. The pathless wood is a simile which compares life to a forest in which there is no clearly marked path and one may easily lose one's way. The speaker wanders alone, burdened down with the hard choice of being adult, his face burning and tickling with the cobwebs broken across it, and one eye is weeping from a twig's having lashed across it open. The word weeping suggests that the tears do not come simply as a result of a cut or a bruise, but because of some inner sorrows. These are all metaphors for the hardships faced by an adult. In these lines, the poet has further developed the theme of imagined world versus the real world. The boy's birch climbing has been an imaginary, playful time when one can remake the world as one imagines it. In contrast, the real world makes it clear that one will achieve no victory over it. Moving to the next lines of the poem. The speaker wishes to escape into an imaginary world. However, he also makes it clear that he does not want permanently to escape to the real world. He wants to come back to earth because earth is the right place for love. He recognizes the fact that there is no better place than the real world. The limits of the real world must exist to enable the imaginative world to exist. It is the real world which makes possible the fantasies of poetic imagination. Moving to the next lines of the poem. The speaker wishes to climb a birch tree to go towards heaven. The motion of the tree would allow him to climb to its top only to bend down and to drop him back on the ground. It suggests that Climbing a tree is an opportunity to get away from the earth for a while and then coming back to it as a tree remains grounded in the earth. The speaker wants to get away from the pressures of life, not in the sense of dying, but in the sense of returning to the innocence and beauty of nature. It enables nature to rejuvenate him and allows him to return to the everyday life on earth. Frost wants his imagination to allow him to approach heaven and then to bring him to the real world. The poem's concluding line, "One could do worse than be a swinger of birches," contains darker possibilities. That is, one could certainly do worse by not making an attempt at all. Thank you.